Okay, so let's continue with the animations that we were doing on the designstripe, designs that we downloaded yesterday, or we started with yesterday. This multi-part motion graphic that I created last week, and now we're just animating the various steps. Again, the technique that we're using to sort of build this more comprehensive animation is to take the static design and then a step at a time animate different components. And then at the end, we're going to stitch them all together. So today we're going to focus on the cell phone animation. Let's have a look at this. So here is, let's just slow it down a little bit. Let's go to 0.5 and we're going to hit play. We're going to do all of this. Okay, so what happens here is the cell phone slides in, the button gets pressed, the menu pops up, and then there's this little touch on the browser icon where it spins around. Okay, so we're going to do all this today. Let's go and pop you out, go over here, open up today's design file. And so yesterday we had worked on the globe. Okay, just like that. And today what we're going to do is we're going to do the same technique. We're going to duplicate the base. We're going to call this smartphone, because today we are animating the smartphone. And that's all of this other stuff. All this other stuff we can get rid of if we want. So I'm just going to turn off the eye. I'm going to turn off the hand, the globe, the ribbon, thumbs down, the speech bubble menu. Going to get rid of the clouds and the card. Kind of get rid of that thumbs up. And then get rid of these clouds as well. Okay. So what we want to be doing is animating in the whole cell phone. We have the, there we go, like this. Oh, the menu needs to come back, sorry. So the menu needs to come back. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to first select both of these, and I'm going to group them. And I'm going to call this the smartphone group, because it includes both the menu and the smartphone itself. And since we're animating all of those, what we'll do in the end is we're going to copy and paste this entire group into our animation, our final animation. So, I mean, obviously the first thing to do would be move it all down, and then it comes up. Okay, that's the first part of the animation. Pretty easy. And then the next part was this little button gets pressed, right? So let's animate that. And in fact, let's actually look at the whole group and say that the animation, you know, is maybe like 0.4 seconds for this smartphone group to move in, because we want a little bit of time for it, a little bit of time for us to play around after it gets animated here. And it's not actually supposed to move in the X coordinate. But you see how sometimes when you import your designs, they're off by just a tiny little fraction, and it looks like Flow rounded that down to 828. So I'm just going to eliminate one of those key values by selecting it and pressing delete. And there you go. We got that menu coming in. All right. So we want this entire group, okay, this menu group, to animate up at some point, right? We also want this button to get pressed. So let's start with the button press. And the way we can see it working is the width and height of that thing would be this sort of like down press animation. So we want it to get a little bit smaller. We want it to just get a little bit smaller and come back out. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that this element right here, which is 84 by 84, let's make it nice and clean. Let's turn on relative mode. Let's just say it's 84. and 84. Oh, there we go, and something like this. Okay. And that changes are just like that. And now let's turn on, I should have had relative mode on while I was doing that, but let's just go right to the middle. And we're going to say that in the middle at 0.5, that this, by clicking the lock, we're going to make it 60 by 60, okay? And notice how it got smaller and went up and to the left. This is a characteristic of SVGs. What they do when they import is they have the anchor point up in the top left here. So I just pressed undo, and now I'm going to, with relative mode on, I'm going to change that anchor point to the middle, and now I'm going to make my change. So this time it's going to animate just by the center of the animation right there, or center of the layer right there, because the anchor point is now in the middle. And then what I'll do is I'm going to drag this to 0.4 and this to 0.6, so we have this short little button press. Okay, easy. Now what I want to see is I want the menu to animate up. So it's got to come up from here, and now from underneath this part of the layer. So there's two ways that we could go about this. Okay, again, everything is about perception. One, we could just hide the entire menu behind that green group, but we don't necessarily know whether or not that's exactly what we want to do. So is it possible to not hide it behind that group? And yes, it's totally possible. And this is the technique that we're going to use right now. So we have our menu group. If I unroll it, it's right here. Okay, and that contains the home icon, the heart icon, the money icon, and the path. Okay, and the path is actually the background. So what I'm going to say is this, I'm going to call it the menu background. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that menu layer and I'm going to mask that menu layer to its bounds. And then at the beginning of our animation, just down here, I'm going to select that, make sure that that entire set of elements inside of that menu group is selected. And I'm going to drag them down, just like that. Okay. And so now they're going to animate all in, just like this. And I'm going to go like this. I'm going to open up this menu, just like that. Again, it looks like things got rounded a little bit, so let's just go and select all of these X coordinates like this. We're just going to delete them all. And then let's go and make this nice and short, okay? So now we're just sort of working with the timing. It should come in, and then that menu comes in. All right, so in our animation, it's just a little bit different, okay? Let's bring that out. Let's come back to this original and have a look, and we're going to play this really nice and slow. I'm going to press Option, make it, or Shift, and make it 0.25. And right here, it comes in. And see that? They're sort of cascading in a little bit. But look at how they move. As they come in, they all stop at the same time. All right, so we're going to work on this little bit of an animation at the moment. So there are a couple of ways we could do that. One, you can just do it by having position of these elements change, but that's not really what I want. What I want is to have them sort of all animate at different speeds, but arrive at the same time. So the way that we get that done is we select all of the icons, these first little ones like this. So money, actually what we should do is we just reorder it. So money should be the third one, and heart should be the last one. So let's reorder this so that they're all in the right order. So we got home, browser, money, heart. Perfect. So now they're in the right order in our timeline as well. And what I'll do is I will move this one just over here to 0.8, move this one somewhere like that, this one something like this, and now I'm just going to distribute those. Now they're evenly distributed, and there you go. We start to get that nice easing effect on the timing of all of those. So now it looks like they all come in at different speeds, which they are because they have the same distance, the same original x coordinate, and they're just moving at different paces. So one is just faster than the other. Okay, so let's look. There we go. Nice and subtle, just like that. Easy so far. Okay. So we got that part of our animation complete. But one other thing that I think I would like to do is I would like to just speed up this animation of the background a little bit. So I'm going to bring that background just a touch in, just like that. So it actually will accentuate that. Okay, so it's going to accentuate the duration of this this background animation. So let's see, this is 0.4 and the background animation is 0.25. So this works. Yeah, let's make this just a little bit longer and something like that. So now if we play this a little bit slow, all right, we're going to see, there we go. The background is going to come in just slightly faster than, and it's going to finish just slightly before in, and it's done. And then everything else sort of slides in all at the same time and ends at the same time, just like that. Okay. Straightforward. We got that one done. Now, the last little bit is to animate this little compass icon right in here. Okay. And what we can do is if we go into the icon browser, we can actually grab those two paths and we're going to group them. And we're going to call this the needle. And at the beginning of our animation, we're going to make that rotation minus 180. Then we're going to bring that up and we're just going to move it over by a little bit. We're going to give it about, let's say a 0.4 second duration. The way that we can do that is we can shift click on the last key value of the track, and then we are going to say that its duration is 0.4, just like that. Then we're going to grab that track, we're going to move it all the way out so that it begins at the end of the rest of our animations. And let's zoom out a little bit. And there we go, we get our little rotation. And so this value is what we're working with right here. It starts at negative 180. I wanted it to actually rotate the other direction, so we're just, with that key value selected, I'm just going to delete the negative symbol and hit enter, and that's the way that I wanted it to go. So it's going from 180 back to 0, which means that it's going to go counterclockwise. Okay, but I don't like that sort of smoothness. I want it to bounce a little bit, so I'm going to take that and I'm going to hit the double back, or the back both curve. And let's just play that one more time. There you go. And then it just gives it a little bit of a playful bounce while it's animating. Okay, that is the cell phone group in its entirety. Let's look at it at full speed and give it a little bit of a loop. Pretty good. Okay, so that's about 1.4 seconds long. Pretty short. And we can, I think, cap it at that for today. Let me just think about it. Today is Tuesday. We got Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Let's do one more part of this animation, okay? So the next thing I would like to do is probably animate the thumbs down. That's actually a pretty easy one to animate. And then we can focus on the more complicated versions of things later on in the week. All right, so we're going to animate that next. So I'm going to, just like I did before, I'm going to go back up to base. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to call it thumbs down. Now let's have a look at our animation. Our original one is this. And let's go and look for the timeline with the thumb down in it. It's this one right here. Again, yeah, pretty simple. Okay. What we want to see is we want it to come down. Yeah, okay, so let's just look at it nice and slow. It's got this sort of like wavy-ish way of coming in. It bounces in and bounces back up. Okay. Let's speed it up to normal space. There we go. All right. So this actually has a nice little technique on how we did it. And if you had a hawk eye, you would have seen it. Let's do this. Okay, so if you had seen it, what happens is it sort of comes down and it's rotating as it comes down, and then it rotates back up. And the way we get that rotation to come down this way while it's doing some other stuff is we're going to take that shape, we're going to embed it inside of another layer. That layer is going to be super long and invisible, and we're going to play with the anchor point on that layer. Okay, so we've done this before in another video. And let's just do it again now. Okay, so we are back in our version of today's stuff. We are in thumbs down. And so what we'll do here is we are going to take these two. Well, that's the thumbs down group. Does it contain its own bubble? Bubble. Yep, that thumbs down group contains that path. Interesting. We are going to actually ungroup that and group it. Probably because I had forgot to group that background path, and we're going to call this thumbs down again. Okay, so now it's the group you see here is the right size, because we want the entire thing to rotate by the middle, not just a hand. All right. And we're going to grab that group. We're going to look at this. And that thumbs down group is nice and wide. All right. So here we go. We're going to insert a layer. We are going to take that layer, we're going to center it to the group, and we are going to bring it all the way out to the edge here. And we're just going to tweak that to 1150, and we're going to make its X position. We're going to change its X position, but the first thing that we're going to do here, turn on relative mode. We should have done that. Well, we should have done that already. We're going to go like this. We are going to delete all those animations that we created on that layer. That layer is now 1150 wide. And we're going to anchor the center to the center left of this thing. And then we're going to say that its position is at 0. So it's positioned all the way at 0. It's all the way to the right here. Now we're going to take this group. We're going to take that thumbs down group. We're going to drop it into that layer. And we're going to call this the thumbs down group, because it contains everything we're animating for the thumb down. All right, so now we have our animation, or our layer structure in place, and what we'll do is we're going to do this rotation. Okay, so actually we'll do the full rotation of the group first, and then we'll add the rotation of the icon itself. So we want this thing to start way up top. So we'll take this, and now that with our anchor point is at negative, or is it right here at the center left, we're going to just take that rotation, and we are going to press minus, minus. I'm pressing shift and clicking down in the rotation icon, just like that. Okay, so now we hit play. Oh, relative mode is on. That's fine. Let's go to the end of our animation, and now let's make that 0. Okay, so now we should get this. It's just going to come down like that. All right, but we don't want that. We want it to sort of bounce back. So what we'll do is we'll add a back curve to it, and now we get that back animation, just like that. Okay. The next thing to do is we are going to do the rotation of the hand. Let's rotate the hand by, let's say 720 degrees, 2 full rotations. What do you think of that? I think that's pretty good. So let's start, and we're going to start. I wanted to rotate clockwise today. So, or in this version, not like we did the last one. So we're going to grab that one. We're going to start it at negative rotation, negative 720, and now it's going to rotate all the way out like this. There you go. So, see that hand is rotating just like that? Cool. But I don't like how it spins here at the end. Okay, so let's change the easing on that. I'm going to ease it so that it does most of its spinning at the front and sort of slows down. And we can do that with, say, like a quad out. And it's going to spin a bunch and slow down right at the end like that. Okay, so this animation is actually quite fast. I would like it to be a little bit longer. And so let's make it 2 seconds long. We're going to scale that out. There we go. So this is a bit nicer motion, but I don't want the two to be tied to one another. So I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to bring this timing in just a little bit. And the next one is I'm going to zoom out just a tiny bit on this. And I'm going to bring this out to 2.2. Okay, so we're going to extend the rotation in, and we're going to shorten the rotation of the icon. Okay, so now it looks like right here, at this point right here, the animation is actually finished. And so the way that I actually kind of figured this out, right, figured out like at what point I wanted this to be, okay, was I had originally had it here when I was building the animation. It's like, okay, I like the length of this animation at 2.2 seconds. Where does it peak at the bottom? Like, does it start coming back up? It kind of starts coming back up right about here, something like that. And so all I did was I moved this here and I brought this animation back. And I said, okay, great. The idea here is that it spins and it finishes spinning and it just moves straight up from there. All right, there we go. Okay, so today was a pretty straightforward day. We worked on two relatively simple animations. Now tomorrow, what we're going to do is we're going to animate all the extra little bits in the cell phone itself. And then the next day, we're going to do two masking techniques. So on Wednesday, we're going to do all the little components inside the cell phone, because there's a bunch of different coordination things that we want to have happen in there. And then we're going to do the eye and the clouds probably on Thursday, and then the final sort of card on Friday, and then we'll stitch everything together on Friday as well. And that's it for today. Okay, so that was a good session. I'll see you tomorrow.